So Yongnuo sent me their newest full-frame Sony E-mount lens, the 85mm f1.8. Now, whew, this is a budget lens, but this actually might be decent for full-frame users. Let's check it out. So the Yongnuo 85mm DF DSM lens is an autofocus lens for the Sony E-mount. Now it has a maximum aperture of f1.8 and a minimum aperture of f16. It also has 9 elements in 8 groups and has 7 aperture blades. Now all this in a body total weight of 346 grams. Now, the build design on this is very similar to the Sony f1.8. It does actually have an autofocus and manual focus switch on the side and also that customizable button right next to it, although it does actually have a USB-C port on the other side, which I would actually assume would be for updating firmware into the lens, I think. I don't actually know any other reason why you would have that. I'm pretty sure it's just for firmware. Now, the focus ring on it does turn quite nice, but you can hear it's a little bit noisy. It's definitely not as clean as the Sony lens, but you know, doesn't really annoy me, especially when it's on autofocus. Is actually quite good. We'll jump into autofocus in a sec. But anyway, you can imagine there are some cost cutting to get this lens down nice and cheap. And yeah, I guess there would be a few caveats with this lens. So we're at f1.8, we'll go into the center, and you can see it's actually not too bad. It's a little bit soft in the center, and outsides it is soft. Stopping down to f2 in the center, and it's a little bit better, and into the corners, it's soft again. Stopping down to f2.8, and it's sharpened up quite a lot. Same thing at f4, it's just as sharp, and out to the corners, it is still soft. Stopping it down to f8, and it's about the same in the corners. And at f16, it's actually quite sharp in the corners and in the center. So overall, pretty decent performance from this lens. Now let's have a look at distortion here. And as you can see, there's a little bit of pin cushioning there. We'll straighten it out by about -7. It seems to fix that up a little bit. You can see right there. So that's at -7 there. It looks pretty decent there. And vignetting, play around with it. It's at about, 20 to 25. So yeah, there's a little bit of distortion and a little bit of vignetting there. But anyway, let's have a look at some images I was able to capture with this thing, and then we'll talk about the autofocus performance on this lens for images and video. So autofocus is another story. It does seem to do quite well, especially in photos, but it wasn't really reliable as the Sony f1.8. But when it did catch, it was actually really sharp. It was just, sometimes it did miss, and for professional work, if you're shooting weddings or something, or sports, it's really disheartening if you did miss that image. But it all depends on which camera you're actually using as well. We're at 85mm at f1.8 here. The shutter speed is at 1/800th of a second, and ISO is 125. Now you can see here it's actually quite tack sharp on her eyes. Stepping forward to a couple of photos forward, still the same. It looks like it's missed a little bit and hit her hair there. A couple more photos forward. Seems pretty sharp. Still the same settings.
Same thing, it's sharp. She is moving towards me. It seems like it's missed a little bit and is catching her hair here. So if you zoomed out here, you won't notice any difference whatsoever. Might just brighten it up a little bit just so we can see that. It still seems pretty sharp though. That is just very, very minor. Coming down to a few more photos onwards, and it has missed here. You can see it's missed a little bit. It's probably more so just behind her eyes, so like at her ears or her hair. We'll come over to a fair few photos over. She looks like she's still walking. That looks tack sharp there. It's a very good image. Obviously she's not looking at the camera though. Here we go. See if it's tack sharp on the eyes. And that looks tack sharp on the eyes there. This eye here looks a lot more sharper, which is good. You can notice the bokeh shape in the background as well. What do you guys think about the bokeh shape? Is it distracting or is it smooth? Is it your cup of tea? You can see depth of field there, the bokeh. What do you think? Comment below, what do you think about this bokeh here? Seems very similar to the Sony 85mm with the bokeh shape. It is a bit more cat eye rather than round when it comes to the bokeh ball, which is very interesting.
But you know, that would potentially be a firmware update if they did want to fix the autofocus system through that side USB port. Now, when in manual focus, you can really actually notice the focus breathing. I do a lot of manual focus a lot when I do videos, and yeah, it's quite significant on this. You can tell the lens is actually, the elements inside are changing that field of view, and for some, that's not pretty. For me, it doesn't worry me too much. I don't mind focus breathing. It is what it is. I've seen a lot of cinema lenses, professional cinema lenses, that actually does have focus breathing. It is in Jojo Rabbit, one of my favorite films. But even though there is focus breathing, and you know, it's not bad for photographers at all, but for video shooters, you will notice it. So it all depends on personal preference there. But you know, it's not as solid as Sony's 85mm or even the G Master 1.4, but it definitely competes at that wide open aperture for image quality and sharpness. But you know, honestly, you wouldn't really be able to tell the difference between the 3 to 4 lenses, you know, but they're 3 to 4 times more expensive. And you know, it's difficult to compare that because of the price. I do feel like if you did want a cheap, sort of mid-range to telephoto prime lens, then this might actually be your choice. It is a bit of a bargain to sort of get this. I do think the image quality that it spits out is actually quite decent. It's not perfect, but you know, if you are wanting to do much more professional work, I would probably suggest go the Sony 85 or go the f1.4 G Master. It's purely up to you what you shoot, but you are still going to get really good quality images out of this Yongnuo lens. But anyway guys, I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, hit that like button, subscribe to my YouTube channel if you already haven't, and yeah, I'll see you guys in the next one. Thanks for watching. Let's get it.